Hi, my friends. Welcome to the International Forum Order of Love for Success in Life. I'm super excited to introduce my guest, Ming Huey Chang, who has been a psychotherapist and social worker for 20 years. She is a family constellator whose mission is to help women with chronic anxiety and fatigue to gain confidence and a sense of self-reassurance they never experienced before. Hi, Ming Huey. It's such a pleasure to see you.
Hi, Victoria.
I know you've been studying family constellations since 2013 under tutelage of different teachers from the United States and from Germany. And now you're helping women to become the best version of themselves. I'm just wondering if there was a specific event in your life in 2012, 2013 that made you interested in family constellations.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, I was looking for a solution for myself. I have always wanted to become the best version of myself. And I was searching, and I've been a social worker. I went to lots of workshops and seminars and learn how to help others, right? Mm-hmm. But at that time, back then, actually, my life was not working very well. I was bullied at my workplace, and
really?
I was workplace bully. That's what happened, and the things were just not working out. My health was also affected, so I stopped working at that time. I just stopped working, and then family constellation came to my life at that time. And before that, I never heard of it. As a social worker, I know Virginia Satir. She's the frontier of family therapy, and she's also a social worker. So she was my idol, my role model. So when I heard family constellation, I thought, oh, that's probably family therapy. That's probably a branch of family therapy. So, and then I read a book, and then I have this feeling like it's familiar, like a lot of things remind me of family therapy, but it's not. It's not. So I was very curious, and I wanted to know more. And then I attended some circles. In family constellation, we call it circles, right? And then I was just very intrigued, and then I was drawn into this work very quickly. I signed up to a year-long program, not knowing much about it, but there's just this desire within me that I want this. I need to know more about this. So that's how I started.
That's a good beginning, right?
Yeah.
And did you notice some changes in your life after you learned about family constellations, or it took several years to see the effect this knowledge have on your personal life and probably professional life?
I definitely feel a difference right away. And a lot of people have similar experience, which is they become more creative. Like I remember back then, even though I just attended my first couple of weekends, and afterwards, I always become more creative. I had more motivation, more interest, and I was more inspired, and I was even more hungry
Oh,
Like every time I attended a seminar, I become very hungry. And now I think back, it's because, any healthy systems, there's a natural flow of energy, right? It doesn't matter if it's your body or it's your, air conditioning or, any system. It cannot stay static, right? It has to have a healthy flow. And when things don't work in our life, whether it's your health or your money situation or your marriage, usually something is stuck, right? Something's not moving. So your life cannot move forward, your love cannot come through. It's things are like stuck, right?
yes.
So that's the first thing I noticed about family constellation is it seemed to get my energy moving.
Mhm.
So my metabolism is faster. I become hungry, and and then my juice is flowing. So I'm more creative. That's that was the first thing I noticed.
That's a good story. And the good thing you didn't gain weight. You're in perfect shape.
It actually helped me lose weight.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it helped
I
lose weight.
I assume if you eat more, you're supposed to gain weight.
No, that's not true. That's absolutely not true. Even if you ask a nutritionist, he or she will probably tell you it's not just about the quantity of food you eat. It's also about how you metabolize, how your body receive or reject or retain what you eat.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that body is the system too. And if it's balanced, it will do work right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you learned about family constellations. You attended the circles, and then for some reason you decided that you would like to learn more, right? I'm asking about your decision to go to Germany and learn from Bert Hellinger.
Mm-hmm. So that's a totally different story.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so since 2013, I was very much into this work, but um, it's for some reason it worked for a while. Like I felt excited and I was able to use it at work and help some of my clients with using the family constellation method. But then, it's not really working. Then it's just like it came to another kind of dead corner. It went into another dead end. Um, and it was like my husband was sick and our marriage was falling apart. So, it's just like, I don't know. I didn't know anymore. And I was just at a point I felt like the whole world has wronged me. Like the world was wrong and I was right, but how come the world is not cooperating with me? And then I felt like, okay, I know about family constellation. I know about, the ancestors. I use it to analyze my husband and his family and all that. But then it's not really going to a good direction. So I was really stuck again, and I probably I never was unstuck, but I just had the illusion for a while. And then I needed help, and the help came. I talked with someone who's quite close to Bert and Sophie, and she gave me a lot of support. And I never met this person. I just talked to her on the phone twice.
Interesting.
And and then she talked to me for hours and gave me a lot of it's hard to describe. It's like she gave me a lot of support, but it's not the kind of support someone just holds your hands and say, oh, poor you, how bad, I'm sorry. It's not that kind of support. It's just, so again, I got intrigued, and I thought, okay, if Bert Hellinger's student could have this kind of effect on me from just talking to me on the phone, and I never met her, she never met me, then maybe I should meet with Bert when he was still alive. And then the opportunity came. Hellinger School, they held the first training program for Chinese descendants. So most of my classmates, they are all from mainland China. And here I was, in Canada, and I knew nothing about, how things work there. But just because of my connection with this person, and because I am a Chinese descendant, so I signed up to the first 10-day intensive in Austria. Yeah. So, and at that time, I was really just, it's almost like a treat for myself. I wasn't thinking about going through a 3-year program. I wasn't thinking about getting another certificate. I have many certificates, but so at that time, I was thinking, okay, I want to treat myself. So I never spent so much money on something like just for myself, not really for work, but it was for me. And so I signed up, I went, and I was in complete shock because it was so different. It was nothing nothing I experienced before could compare to that experience. So I came back, I felt like I was walking out from a dream. So I went home, I still felt like I was in a dream. And then I told my husband about what I heard and what I saw during that 10 days. And part of it I still couldn't believe. So I had to tell someone, and maybe he could tell me what it sounded like.
So even though you knew family constellations, you was so much impressed, and it looked like you learned something very different or very new.
Yeah, very, very different. Yeah. And a lot of it was I was completely confused. Because of course I read Bert Hellinger's book before. That was like the textbook. Even though it, was with other teachers, but you know, of course, they have to acknowledge Bert, and they use his book, Love's Hidden Symmetry, as the textbook, as the required reading. But it's different. It's different when you met him in person, and it's very different to just be in his presence. It's just different. Like back then he was already like 91-year old, right? He was already very old, and then he became very slow, and he moved very slowly, and then he talked very slowly. And you know, from the outside, it almost looked like nothing's happening. You know, it's not like some constellations in United States I attended. You know, they have rituals. You know, sometimes they chant, or you know, they have certain ceremonies or sentences, and like there are a lot of
Action.
yes, yeah, lots of actions, or sometimes drama, right? Lots of drama. So it's kind of it could be, I guess you could say it's more entertaining. Yeah. And then with Bert, it wasn't entertaining, but it was shocking.
And
Yeah.
it was shocking in which way? Was it, did you feel some effect of this shock on your personal life, for example?
Yeah, I did. So I didn't personally had a constellation with him. I most like 90, I would say 95% of the time I was just a participant. I was present, and sometimes I get to be a representative, but most of the time I was just there.
Part of audience, right?
Yeah, part of the audience. Even though I just watching him and the Sophie, his wife, work, it was shocking. I don't know. I don't know if anyone else can have the same effect. Like, it's like they say something, but if you and I say the same thing, it would not have the effect. But for some reason, when they say it in such a matter of fact way, in such a just nonchalant, like there's no drama, and just as is, and then it has an effect. It had an effect on the client, and it had an effect of the whole audience. It's hard to explain. I think everyone has to actually experience it at least once in their lifetime to feel it.
I believe you telling about that experience, what we have when we hear truth, and these truths go directly into our heart. It's not here.
Yeah.
We just feel it on some level that this is truth.
Yeah.
And suddenly, as we have an ability to see more than we were able to see before,
Yeah.
our perception expands so much, and everything looks differently. And this flow of love, we literally could experience the quality of this love.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And that's something that even if we read books, we're not able to get that experience. That experience just happen when you are in group of people in the field of constellation.
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
that's how I perceive this work, and I completely agree with you that we don't have to ask for constellation. Just being present during the constellation, we can get so many insights about ourselves and about world around us. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you remind me, yes, the truth. Actually, um, yeah, that is true. They often, yeah, it's just the truth. And although when they just say it out loud, it's so shocking. Um, and I would be so surprised the person who received it would just accept it. They, I thought, you know, coming from United States, I thought they would be furious and they would protest, or, like, because that's kind of what I was used to. And then I was so shocked, like most people, they took it and they actually agreed with what they said. For example, like Sophie would just say, like, you never loved him, or you want to leave in front of everyone, about a couple. And that's so embarrassing. Um but in the meantime, it's also liberating. It's liberating. Someone said it, and it's and when we hear the truth, um it's even deeper than our heart. I think they said it's your soul heard it. So they're speaking on the soul level, which is totally beyond what our mind could comprehend.
What did you bring home from that seminar? I mean, what what exactly you learned, and how you apply this knowledge in your life, in your profession?
Well, the thing is, it's not the kind of seminar you can actually say, okay, I learned this, and that. It's, to be honest, like, I did not know what I have learned after I attended the first seminar. Like I said, I was completely feeling like surreal.
Right, but you decided to go back, right?
Right. Well, and actually that was with the support of my husband. Without him, I probably wouldn't attend the second one, because he's a physician. So he was very, very skeptical about family constellation work. And he just thought it's, ooh, stuff. um, and then after the first intensive, I described to him what I learned, what I heard and observed. And surprisingly, he said, well, maybe you should go back. So say, really? And then so we planned our holiday around it. So he went with me, but our plan was to just attend parts of it, and then we're gonna go on holiday. And then in the last minute, I decide to stay. In the last minute, I felt I couldn't miss this. I needed to stay. And he supported me. So even though he had to, change our whole vacation plan, and that he was not going to continue, like he's not gonna attend more seminar, but he said, it's your decision. So I stayed. And yeah, it was, I would say that's probably one of the best decisions for our life, for our marriage.
Amazing story, and thank you for sharing that. So now you help women. You actually work with men and women, but you focus on work with women. Would you like to say something about your choice or your preferences? Why women? Why you believe that you should help women, and that and how knowing orders of love can help you with that on your mission?
Well, in Bert's word, the secret of helping people is very simple. He just brings people back to their parents. He helps people reconnect with their parents. So women particularly need to connect with their mother, and the men particularly need to connect with their father. But in our society today, a lot of women, they don't want to be like their mother. I don't know about you. When I was growing up, I thought I would never ever want to be a woman like my mother. So I had this grand idea about how my life should be and how I should be. And I worked very hard to be that ideal person. And then, like I told you before, I ran into a lot of dead ends. And then I could not find out what was wrong. What did I do wrong? Until I met Bert and Sophie. And they brought me back to the basic, which is to connect, to accept my mother. And that's actually the hardest thing. I think that's the hardest thing. A lot of the women, as soon as they heard about, well, you need to reconnect with your mom and reconcile and have a better relationship with her, they're gone. There's like, forget about it. I don't want to hear about my mom. I want to be as far from her as possible. Well, then they will continue. They will continue in their circle. And same with men. It's interesting that I'm a woman, but I sometimes help men reconnect with their father. And it's the same thing with men. A lot of men, they grew up with a father who might be violent, or they divorced their mother. So men also have bad ideas about their father. And they also make the vow like, oh, I would never want to be a man like my dad. I want to be different. I want to be so respectful and so tender with women. And then they became anxious. They became a pushover. They became not respected, and then they suffer, and then they don't know why. So
Yeah, I agree with you, and I'm wondering if you have a good example, I mean a good story from your practice when someone succeeded and was able to accept a mother or a father, and how that inner change helped to make changes in their life.
Yeah, I have. I would say probably all of my work had to go back to that. So I helped an elderly woman. She's retired, and she had lots of anxiety, and she said it's actually more grief than anxiety, because she's had a lot of deaths in her family, and every year she's dealing with friends and the family die, and then she became very very dysfunctional. Like her house was cluttered. She could not move around in her kitchen. She could not sleep in her own bed, because every room is piled with boxes of stuff. And then she even tripped over things because things are so cluttered, right? And usually in that kind of case, whether you say it's a hoarder or just very cluttered house, usually it has something to do with grief. So we worked together over a 6 months period of time. We agreed on, okay, we're going to meet once a month, and we're gonna go through this process. And it's amazing. Like every session, we went through something major, and then she accepted a lot of truth that was happening, that happened in her family. So, for example, like her parents actually protected her when she was young, and in a lot of ways, she thought she was protecting her parents, and then that show up in her relationship with her own children. Her daughter was doing that for her. So her daughter was sexually assaulted and was very angry at her for years. But once she realized that reverse of order, she went back to her place as child in relation to her parents. And then her relationship with her daughter became better. And even though I did not, tell her how do you organize your stuff and how do you declutter, but she just started moving. She just started doing it herself. So yeah, that was a very, very fast moving. Like within 6 months, her house became organized, and her relationship with her daughter and her son became much better. Her son and the daughter-in-law started contacting her, because they were not in speaking terms before. And then she just became much in peace. That was, I think that was the most important is that inner sense of peace. So she no longer felt scattered, like just like kind of running around like a chicken without head. And then she was able to work away what needed to be done bit by bit on her own, because I was only meeting with her once a month. That's all she could afford, and that's what we agreed on. But so in between, she was working on her own, and every time I saw her, we work on something else, and then she moved a bit further.
That's a great story, and I like what you mentioned about the special place in family system. I believe not everyone knows about this place, as I call it, place of strength in the family. Could you share a little bit about these orders in family, about places or roles we play, and if you can give some recommendations about how to remain at this place to make sure that you occupied your place in the family system, and why it's important.
Mm-hmm. I haven't used the term place of strength, but I think I know what you mean. The place that you feel most strength, you have, feel most strong, is your rightful place. Mm-hmm. And there is only one place in your family system, like you can't move around. Like the only rightful place for you is you are the child of your parents. That's the only rightful place. If you try to be anywhere else, for example, if you try to be your father's companion, or if you try to be your grandmother, if you try to take her place, then you lose your strength. Then you become something else or someone else. You're out of the place.
Is it possible to recognize, to kind of make this diagnosis about where I am, if I'm occupying my space or I'm somewhere else, or this is where I need to ask family constellator to help me with?
I think most people actually already know, and they knowingly occupy a different position. So a lot of people, they knowingly look after their mother as if she's the child, right? So a lot of women would, at first they would say, oh, I have excellent relationship with my mom. I talk to her every day. I help her with everything. She can live without me. But that is the problem. If in your mind you believe your mother cannot live without you and she needs your help, then who is bigger? Right? So then you already put yourself at the mother's place, and you think your mother is the child. Yeah, then that then you're in big trouble.
Yeah, I know that people can sense that something wrong. Usually when it happened, most people have different sort of dissatisfaction. They either upset about something, that other person doesn't value them as much as they deserve, right? But for many people, it's just a feeling, but they don't know the nature of this feeling because they're not familiar with orders of love. They're not familiar with that structure of the family that Bert Hellinger presented in his books, and we could see and experience that during workshops. That's why I believe it's important for people just learn about these orders of love. What do you think?
I think that's the most basic, but that's also the most difficult. So most people, they know it in theory, right? They know it in their head. Yeah, like, of course, my mother is my mother. But do they really feel it? And do they really want it? Most people who take the parents' place, or they place themselves above both their parents, like as if they are judge, or they actually knowingly and willingly do that. They complain, of course. They say it's a lot of work, I can't go on with my life. I spend all my time and energy helping my parents. I can't get married because who's gonna look after them? But deep down, there's also a sense of pride or arrogance. It's like, I have to do this, and I am good, right? That sense of innocence, right? When we feel we're we are the victim, we are innocent, right? And we're living, and but then when you make a choice, then you have to carry the guilt. And sometimes we have the guilty conscience. People don't want that. So a lot of people, they will continue to suffer in order to feel good about themselves.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that's their choice.
So I think that's where people actually need help. because even though we know like this is not working, this is very depleting, you know, but we don't know how to get out. Like I didn't know how to get out. And so that's when we need help. We need someone who has been there and done that to guide us, so we could come back to the position, to the rightful place.
Well, if people wants to get help, how they can reach you? Do you have some educational program? Do you offer sessions? Do you offer workshops?
So mostly I work with people one-on-one online. So it's very easy. Just email me and then we will be in touch, and then we will set up a time to talk. So that's the easiest way. Occasionally I do talks. I did offer some educational programs, but mostly in Chinese language. I also had a series of workshops that just finished. But those group things are mostly in Chinese language. If the time comes, I would like to do one in English, but right now I mostly offer one-on-one work to just, you know, help people achieve what they want to achieve.
That's great. I think it's wonderful that you spread this knowledge and help people to better understand themselves and what's going on in their life, basic on this systemic approach. Because for many people, it's hard to see bigger picture, to see beyond the problem, to see beyond just a relationship with a partner, relationship with a child. They're not able to see that as a complex, because there is no such thing as one person as an island, right?
Right.
We are interconnected, and sometimes especially when we have difficulties and conflict, and we're very emotional, it's hard to see wider. That's why I completely agree with you. We need help at that specific moment. Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to share? Some suggestions, some advice?
Okay. All right. So when I think about the teachings I received from Bert and Sophie, gratitude, that's number one thing. When you truly feel grateful, then you cannot be a victim. And second is humbleness. Be humble towards your parents, towards your elders, your ancestors. Yeah, I think that's what stayed with me.
Thank you. Thank you. It's beautiful. I truly enjoyed our conversation. You shared such a nice stories. And I hope we will meet again and discuss some other topics. Okay,
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.